So that's what's really important. We're doing a poll on Dr. NotSoPolite here. What is the poll? Under Dr. NotSoPolite, around Pokimane in XQC's neighborhood. Obviously I'm greater than Magnus. A good one. Yeah, okay. All right, you guys, so what else do we have? I think we're gonna take a look at some of Dr. NotSoPolite's games. Let me see if I can find his profile. So let's take a look at his last 6 games played by Mr. Diarrhea Panic. So let's pop up this game. This will be the first one. Let's see. So Diarrhea Panic here is playing with the black pieces. Diarrhea Panic, of course, is the username of of Dr. NotSoPolite. Okay, so game starts d4, plays e6. Okay, all pretty standard. I'll turn on the evaluation and the lines here. Knight c3, knight c6, pretty good stuff. Bishop f4, bishop d6. So even if he doesn't know openings, it is good to see that he brings the bishop out early. Like, even if this is objectively a bad move, it shows that he has some basic understanding of what you want to do at the very start of the game. This is this is Dr. NotSoPolite. I think you can definitely tell who I'm talking about. Who is Dr. NotSoPolite? He has another name too. Pawn takes, queen d2. Okay, f6. Now this actually, as soon as I say he plays a move that's not best, what he should do is just develop. Like, objectively, the computer will say you should push the pawn, but I think the main thing to remember is you want to develop your knight and castle your king out of the middle of the board, and then you try to worry about like these 2 pieces. But the first thing you want to do is get your king out of the center of the board. So playing knight f6 would make the most sense. So he goes f6, castles is played here. He goes pawn to e5. Now again, not really what you want to do. You don't want to be opening up the board here because your king is still in the middle of the board. You want to get your king out of there, so you got to move your knight to like e7 or h6 and get that king out. But generally, since you played f6, you want to move the knights towards the center, so moving the knight and castling would make the most sense. Of course, as you guys can see, this is very good for white, and you probably should try to stop it with like d5, but again, the principles matter more at this level, so you should have gone knight e7 and castled the king. Anyway, he plays e5, takes with the pawn, correct, e4, pawn to d6, bishop c4. Now this is the problem, is that here black can never really castle the king, and white has already gotten his king out of the center of the board. So white has played this game almost perfectly. Knight e7, knight d5, bishop e6, trade. Okay, pretty good stuff. And now he goes queen b6. So I would say up to this point, Dr. NotSoPolite has played really well. He should have taken the knight on c6 here, because currently white has 2 knights and black has 1 bishop. So you want to take back. Now I'm guessing he probably just tunneled on the fact that he couldn't capture with the pawn. Knight b4, rook d8, knight d5. Okay, queen b5. Ooh, and Dr. Disrespect loses his queen. Actually, I guess you could say a lot about that, but anyway, he loses his queen here after knight c7 with the fork here, and with it he loses the game. At this point, it's already really bad. I mean, maybe you should trade the bishop for the knight here. But he goes queen b5, knight c7, king d7, takes, and now he just resigns because he's down by a queen. You can take the knight back. I'm a bad person. Thank you guys. That's not TOS, you guys. It's not TOS. Takes queen d6 is and king c8, I guess, is a move here. But yeah, I mean, a very tough game for sure. What I would say is that overall it wasn't played perfectly by him, but what he really needed to do is he needed to take this knight here. That was the first thing. But then also before that, you just got to remember the concept that you want to castle. You should be mindful of what your opponent is trying to do here, of castling his king out of the center. Like, white follows a very basic plan: develop, castle your king, and then you look to play in the center of the board and open up the lines, but you don't want to do it right away. Yeah, that's it's just a tough game for Dr. NotSoPolite. But at any rate, he loses his first game. So let's keep going back. So that was the first one we looked at. So let's take a look at this next game. So this next game, I think he actually wins. So he plays with a black piece. So knight f3, d6, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, g6. Wait, so you know what this tells me? This tells me that no, of course you're allowed to say his name. I'm just having fun because someone said that earlier, and that actually kind of was an amusing way of putting it. But his opening, he plays a King's Indian defense here, which is kind of surprising. Actually, like, kind of surprising. So what that tells me is that he watches my streams. I don't know, he could, but that tells me that he's watched something related to chess, because if he was completely new to the game, he would not understand these developing concepts. So he plays this, not great. Oh, and now he blunders. he blunders. Again, I think what you need to remember is when you push a pawn, it's same thing, develop and get your king out of the center. But he does this, it's still okay. And now you got to remember, actually, when you try to do this and they castle, if you push these pawns, the idea is you want maximum scope for your bishop, so you want to put them on these two squares on the diagonals. Really, really important. So he goes here, and now he goes here, takes queen d2. And now his opponent blunders a juicer. He fails to take the rook on a8. He takes, okay. And Dr. NotSoPolite, he moves his king in the center, very dangerous. Again, it's better to take with a pawn, keep some shield in front of your king here, kind of. You really want to protect it. And then using that league reference, like it is like the Nexus, it's true. Like you got to protect your king at all costs. So he takes with the king, queen e3, king f6, a4, and now he plays bishop h3. Nice move here. Rook a3, and he finds queen g2. Not bad at all. Opening is not fantastic. Well, you can say he played those three moves by luck, but he found some good moves. So I mean, like in terms of his play, like it's not perfect, but he sees some tactics and he understands some basic development, which is actually not bad. Long scoping with b7 would have been more traditional, but h3 is actually the correct move, right? Because you win the rook. White can stop it, but you lose a juicer. Whereas if you go here, my rook is still in the game, but when you go here, you take the rook. So bishop h3 is the best move. Not a bad second game that we see right there. So let's keep going. Let's take a look at this game. So this game ends in a draw. It's a very long game, as we can see. So how does this game go? E4, d5, knight f3, c6, d4, knight d7. Okay, still, I mean, not great, but not terrible either. So now he takes, he goes here again. I think Dr. NotSoPolite, he needs to remember that what you have to do is develop your pieces and get your king out of the middle. So knight f6, for example, takes, and then something like this, e6 castles, and bishop e7 or bishop d6 to trade the bishops off. But you have to remember to develop and get your king out of the center of the board. Really important to do that. Goes here, plays here. Ooh, his opponent misses a mate. Is there a forced mate here somehow with a check? Computer says knight d6 is winning, but it doesn't give a clean checkmate. But a really nasty move here would be something like knight g5, and if you take, I just checkmate you. And I mean, I guess you can check here to create space so that this is no longer a threat. Like if white blocks, you can take, and then after check you run away, so your king has space. But if white blocks with a bishop here attacking your queen and keeping this idea alive with all kinds of problems like forks and everything, this is really bad. So his opponent castles, he goes here, bishop g3, f5, knight c5, takes, bishop g7, not bad, bishop d7, knight f6. Does he castle? He does not castle. So I guess a big question is, does Dr. NotSoPolite know how to castle the king and the rook here? This is also a serious question. He goes knight h5, takes, rook e1, takes the bishop. Okay, he sees the threat. Actually, very good that he sees this threat. Like the moves are, they're gonna be blunders for sure, but seeing basic like one move tactics is already quite good. Goes here, takes, not bad. Here, okay, he goes g4. I guess e6 is better because the knight holds the glue here. But anyway, this is not the end of the world. He's actually doing quite well. Rook e8, and he sees the patented ice skater. He sees a back rank checkmate. I'm not gonna lie, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I'm not gonna lie, I'm impressed. Even if there are a lot of things that he's not seeing, there are certain things that he's seeing that I would not expect someone who's completely new to the game to see. So this is actually, I'm actually impressed. Like seeing bishop h3 with queen g2 and then seeing this rook e8, rook e1, it's not bad. Actually, it's not bad at all. Like I feel like when for like PogChamps, when I saw some of the initial contestants like starting to get into the game, there were a lot of things I feel like with tactics they just didn't see. No, I am actually impressed. I am impressed because I'm under the assumption that he has very limited knowledge in terms of chess, and he didn't spend hours like looking at stuff ahead of time. So I am actually impressed. So this is actually very good. So knight h5, b5 takes, check. But does he make a stalemate in this game? What happens? Stops the pawn, all good. And see, this is also another thing, like again, like even if there are many blunders, like a position like this, seeing rook c1, I would not necessarily expect someone to spot this move because it's not obvious at all at this level. So he goes here. Okay, and maybe he ran out of time. That might be the problem. Let's keep going. Okay, so I'm guessing that he ran out of time here, which is why the game was probably a draw, is my guess. He's not new. Maybe he's not new. I'm just saying, like, there's certain concepts that I feel like I would not expect someone at 400 to like see. There's certain concepts that they just don't feel natural. Of course you can spot them, but they just don't. He offered a draw. Oh, okay. But not a bad game either. So let's keep going. I am too nice. No, I'm not too nice. So e4 d5, so he goes f3. So yeah, see, one thing that DrNotSoPolite really is focusing too much on is playing f3. Like, he's weakening his king very early with his pawn push, f3 or f6. That being said, however, while it's really bad and you don't want to play a move like that, the fact that he guards the pawn in the center is still a positive. Knight f6, d3. Okay, guards the pawn, g4. Okay, he hangs the pawn. And this probably gets bad. And yeah, this game, I just feel like, yeah, this game just completely collapses just at the very start. I mean, again, I think he played all these games on the same day, so I think probably just collapsing here. Again, not a great game. Kind of the one theme I've noticed though is he has not developed the bishop and castled the king. In none of these games has he done that. So I think maybe he's not familiar with the concept of castling. Because that's the one thing I'm noticing in all these games so far, is that he is not castled in a single game. So let's keep going. We have this game, which is e4. Okay, so he plays this game with black. d6, knight c3, knight c6. Okay, again, moving the pawn too early. He did this in like every game. It's just he's pushing the f pawn. Again, you need to develop. You need to move the knight here, or for example, push the pawn and go here. So it's pretty, like, the basics that you want to play for are just getting your king out of the middle of the board, like here, and just castle. Really important that you do that. But even if you don't take the center, you can also do something like this, and then develop your knight, castle, and then you castle your king, and then you look to play in the center of the board. You look to play e5 or d5, but you'll notice you never push this pawn that was next to your king. You always get your king out of the middle of the board at the very beginning of the game. Really important to do that, because again, it's not that big of a deal, but but you see, you get in trouble right away. And see, like, even when he pushes the pawns, it feels like he doesn't understand, like, the notion of pushing the pawn. It's to create space so you can develop the rest of your forces, because your bishops, your knights, and your rooks, and then your queen, obviously, they're the strongest piece on the board. So pawns sort of create space, and then you develop your pieces behind the pawns accordingly, with your structure. Levy's coming up soon, you guys. So anyway, b6 d5, he goes e5, takes, bishop c8, castles h6, knight d5. And see, again, you see, like, here again, he has an option to try and develop and get the king out of the center, move the bishop, move the knight, castle the king, but he doesn't do that, and that's kind of the problem, you see, like, and now he just blunders and resigns. Very tough game. But I will say that when we look at DrNotSoPolite's games, I think the important thing is that he has some of the tactical sequences he sees, but getting to that point, he has to remember to develop the piece and castle the king. It's really important, because it just seems to me that he doesn't actually realize you can castle the king. Like, he might not know the maneuver of the king and the rook, the 2 and 2 squares. So I think that's really important, is that what you do is you move the pawns to create the space so that you can develop all your pieces behind, like your bishop and your knight, and get your king out of the center of the board. That's really important. But the point is that you basically develop, like, you move your bishop, move your knight, get your king out of the center of the board.